Hey, this is Toby. So in today's video, we continue to code our candlestick pattern EA in mql5. We will add a panel to this EA. We will do some additional inputs checks, and in the end, we will also do a few backtests, and I will show you some very interesting results. Okay, let's go. Okay, so this is the next part of our candlestick pattern coding series here on this channel. If you have not seen the previous parts, I will link them up here so you can go watch them and then come back to this video. Okay, so in this video, as I already said, we will add a panel to our EA. So the panel will look something like this here. We have a line for each condition, and then we have a cross which indicates if the condition is true for buy and for sell. And of course, if all the conditions are true for one direction, we will take a trade in this direction. And also we will do some additional inputs checks so it's easier to optimize this EA in the strategy tester. Okay, so let's jump to meta editor and we start coding. Okay, so here we are in the meta editor. This is our expert advisor file, our candle pattern EA file. And the next step is now to create a panel for this EA. So I want to go to the include folder. Here in the navigator, you will find include. And in here, I created another folder called YouTube. And in here, I want to create the graphical panel. So I just right click here on this folder, click on new file, select include, click next. And here you can again see the directory. And let's give it a name, for example, candle pattern GUI for graphical user interface. And let's just click on finish. Okay, so now we have a include file here in this YouTube folder. First of all, I want to clear all of these comments here. We can leave this stuff up here. And now let's click compile. And now we can start coding our graphical panel here. So let's create a comment section here. You can press Ctrl and dot on your keyboard to create this comment here. And let's name this include 1. We will have another include section here in this file. So here, first of all, we want to include our expert advisor file. So you can just write include and then the directory of this candle pattern EA file here. And in our case, we are in the include folder here by default, and we need to go one folder up to the mql5 folder and now into the expert folder. So experts, and here in the YouTube folder for me. Of course, this depends where your candle pattern EA file is. So I will just write YouTube here. And after that, the name of the file. So candle pattern EA dot mq5. And this is the include statement. We need to include the candle pattern EA file here in this panel. And you can just compile to check if this include statement is correct. There should be no mistake here. Okay, and for the next include statement, I have just copied this from another file and I will paste it now. So you can pause the video and code this for yourself. So include here the control defines file. Then we add another comment section here. And here we just set some default settings for the panel. So we undefined the font name, we undefine the background color of the panel, and then we define a new font name and a new background color here. And here after this define block, we have another include section, include 2, and here we just include the controls dialog file and the controls label file. Okay, and if you have done this, you compile again to make sure you have no mistake here in your code. Okay, so now we can start coding the actual panel class. Let me just move this to the left a little bit so we have more screen size here. We can create another comment section here after our second include block. Control point again, and yeah, let's just call this class. I don't know how we should call our class. Maybe C, just graphical panel, like this. Okay, now we can code our class. So we can just write class here and then the name of our class. So C graphical panel. And we also want to inherit from the C app dialog class. So we can just write public C app dialog. So now we have all the members available from the C app dialog class to our C graphical panel class. Now let's write a description. First of all, we want to create a section called private. So these members here are only available inside our class and not from outside. So let's maybe also write a comment here, private variables. And here we want to create basically a label for each object we want to display later on the panel. And if you take a look here on the panel again, we can see we have our caption here with number, condition, by, sell. So each of these words here is one object, one C label object, and then we have one line for each condition. And here we will use some kind of array of labels to display these lines here. Okay, so let's go back to meta editor and let's create all these labels here. Okay, so first one is C label n underscore L. So I always start for the members of a class with m underscore. So I know it's a member of a class, and this L is just to indicate that this is a label object basically. Okay, so number is the first one here. This label. Now the next one is condition here. So again, C label m underscore L condition. C label m underscore L. And of course, this is not a name. This is not a text we display later here, but it's just the name of the object. But it makes sense to call the object so you know, okay, which object is for which text. So buy and sell are the next ones. So buy and C label m underscore L sell. Okay, and now we want maybe a array of numbers here. So we can call this C label m underscore maybe condition number, and the size of this array will be the number of conditions. So we have a constant defined here, number conditions in the candle pattern EA here. So right now we have this set to 2. These are the number of conditions. And if we change this later here, also this array will be increased by 1, for example, automatically. So this is the size of the array. And next, again, C label m underscore L. Next one here is, it's maybe the condition text. So let's just call this condition text. And also the size of this array is number conditions. Next one here is for the buys. So these X or crosses here for buy and sell. So one array for buy, C label m underscore L. We can just call them buys maybe. And this is also an array. Number condition is the size. And C label m underscore sells number conditions. Okay. I think these are all the labels we need. Let's take a look at it again. So that's all we want to display for now on the panel. So let's click compile and make sure you have no mistake. So we can see I have a few mistakes here. C label. Yeah, it's just a little mistake here. I compile again. Another mistake here. So unexpected end of program. Yeah, we need just a little semicolon here at the end, like this. Now we should be able to compile without any mistakes. Okay, now we can continue to code here. So the next section, let's also write a comment. Let me pull this down. Okay, so this is now maybe private methods, and here we only have one private method, which is of type Boolean, and this is called create panel, and this of course will be used to create the panel. Now the private section is done here, and we need another keyword called public. So these members here and methods are basically also visible from outside the class. So here the first one is, maybe we write a comment here, public method. And the first one here of type void, so no return type. This is the constructor, so it has to be the same name as our class, so graphical panel, and we don't have any input parameters for this function here. Next one, deconstructor. Again, the same name, but with this, I don't know how you call it, wavy sign here in front. So see graphical panel, no parameters. And then we have one method here of type Boolean called onInit. And make sure you don't write like onInit, like the predefined function, but keep this I here a lowercase. And yeah, we will call this function later in the onInit function of our EA. And we will also have a function of type void again called update. So we will call this function, of course, at every tick in the EA to update the panel. And the last function here will be also of type void called panel chart event. And this method has a few parameters. The first one is a constant integer called ID. Next one is also a constant of type long, this time passed by reference and called lparam. And then a constant double, also passed by reference, called dparam. And the last one, constant string, passed by reference as param. Okay, so now if we press compile, there should be no warning or error here in the log file. So let's create the onInit function first here. So we can do this inside this class if we just write the body here. But I think it's better to read if we do this outside. Then we just have to specify that this method belongs to our class. And you can just write bool for the type and then write the class name, C graphical panel, and then you can write your method name. So onInit here and the body, and this method here just creates our panel. So let's just write a comment here, create panel, and with a if statement, we can just write if this dot create panel fails. We want to return false here, and otherwise in the end of this onInit function, we just return true. So this onInit function will be called from our onInit function of the expert advisor, and we just create the panel here. So let's compile and make sure we have no mistake here. Oh, and also make sure you have this exclamation mark here, otherwise the panel will not show up. Okay, let's create this create panel private method next. So again, the type, this time I think it's void, Boolean again. So bool, again, our class name, C graphical panel, and the method name, create panel, and the body here. In the end, we want to return true, and you should be able to compile now without any mistakes. Okay, so now here the first step, of course, is to create the panel. So write another comment, create panel, and you can just type this dot create, and this is now a method from our C app dialog class we have specified here that we inherit from this class, and now we can use this function here. So create, and here we need to specify a few parameters. So first one is the chart ID. So null is just the current chart. Next one here is the string name. So this will be displayed on top of our panel. So let's just call this, maybe candle pattern EA. Next one is the sub window, which is 0. This is the main window, basically. The first X coordinate, also 0. Second one, the Y coordinate, also 0. And now the second X coordinate. And here I would just enter a number for now. And we have to see how this looks on the screen. And this is also something that can look different for your screen, depending on the screen size and resolution. But let's start with 520 here and 190. Okay, so this should create our panel. Let's compile again. And before we even create objects to display here on the panel, let's just make sure that the panel even shows up when we start our EA. So the next step is to include this panel here in our expert advisor. Okay, so here we are in the candle pattern EA file now, in our expert advisor file. And here we want to include now our candle pattern GUI file. So we can write here in the include section, include, and now the directory. So this is, for me, it's in the YouTube folder. And the name candle pattern GUI.mqh. Can take a look here in the navigator again. So I have this file in the include folder, and here another folder called YouTube, and here is the file I want to include. So YouTube / candle pattern GUI.mqh. Now you should be able to compile without any mistakes here. And let's create a graphical object of our class here. And here the global variable section. Here maybe after the ctrade class or ctrade object, we can now write C graphical panel. And let's just call this object panel. We can also write here a comment object to create panel. Let's compile again. I can see I have a mistake here in my code, so let's see. Okay, we need a constructor and deconstructor here. So let's switch back to the C panel GUI class here. And for these two methods, we need to write a body, basically. So we do this here after our description of the file. We can just write void and the name C graphical panel, and not create panel, C graphical panel here. And the body is just empty for this constructor. Let me also write a comment here. So constructor, and also a body for the destructor. Again, void C graphical panel. And now this little wave here. And again, C graphical panel. So this is the destructor. Also of type void or empty brackets, and also the body. Okay, now if we compile again, we go back to the candle pattern EA, and we should be able to compile without any mistakes. Okay, now we can use this object here in our expert advisor. So we can call in the onInit function here, after we set the magic number, the onInit function of our class. So let's write a comment here. We just write create panel. And here we can do a simple if statement with a exclamation mark. So if our panel dot on init here fails, we want to return init failed. And yeah, we just make sure if the creation here fails, we don't start the EA. So now let's compile again, and now we should be able to see a panel when we start the EA. So let's switch to MetaTrader. And let's open the navigator here. Maybe you have to refresh to see your EA, the candle pattern EA. And let's just drag and drop this here on the chart. Yeah, just the default inputs. Click OK. And now we should see a panel here in the top left corner. We cannot move it right now. We will add this later. For this, we need the chart event function. But we can already see the panel, and we can see the name candle pattern EA here on the chart. Okay, so let's switch back to meta editor. And now we can start to add the first object here in our panel class file in the create panel method right here. Okay, so let's start with the first object, which is the number label. So we can just use our member here, m underscore label number. And first of all, also dot create. And here we specify again the chart ID, null, the name. And yeah, we can call this whatever we want. Maybe just number here, sub window 0, and x1 is also, I would say, yeah, maybe 20, just to have a little bit of space to the left. And y1 should be, yeah, also 20 or 15 maybe. And for the second coordinates, you can just use 1 and 1. It's not important for a label. Okay, and then just close this. So here we create the first label. And now we also want to set the text. So we can write dot text here. And let's just write number here. So this is what we see later on the panel, this text here. This is just the name of the label. Okay, and also we want to write or change or set the color. So we can write dot color. And yeah, maybe we set the color here because we have a dark background to a light color. Maybe the screen here. Yeah, you can take a look at, if you highlight this, press F1, you can take a look at all the colors. These are just the default colors. Of course, you can mix colors also, but let's just use this green here. And we also want to set the font size, number, font size, and here we just set it to maybe 14. Of course, you can change this depending on your screen size and also here the positioning of this label. And last, we want to add the label to the panel. So we can just write this dot add, and here we specify our label number like this. And what we also want to add here in this create panel function, at the end, we want to run the panel. So we can write a comment run panel, and here we just create a if statement with a exclamation mark again. We can just write run. And if this fails, we can just print maybe failed to run panel. And we want to return false here. Maybe we can do this in the next line. So run, print, return false, like this. Okay, Now, if we want to compile, you should always go back to the candle pattern EA file and compile from here. This will automatically compile both files. So press compile. So there's no mistake. If we go back to the MetaTrader platform, I have here a new chart now, and I will just drag and drop the panel again on the chart. And let's see. Yeah, now we can see the number label here already in the top left corner. Okay, now let's create the next labels. So we go back to our create panel class method here, and I will just copy this section here, paste it 3 times down here. So 1, 2, 3. And so this will be, so these are all the labels for our caption, basically. So we just need to rename this now to m_l condition. And let's also replace all the other label numbers here to m_l condition. And here, of course, we also just write the name of the label condition, the text, so condition. And yeah, font size is okay, color is also okay. The only thing we need to change here is, of course, the coordinates of this label. So, of course, the x coordinate is still the same. No, the y coordinate is still the same. We need to change here this x coordinate maybe to 60. Okay. Now the next one here. Let's change this to m_label by. Also replace all the other names here. And let's call this, yeah, maybe just by. And here for the text, also by. And for the x coordinate, let's do this to, I don't know, 360, because we need more space for the condition. Yeah, and the last one, of course, here. Let's change this to m_label cell and replace all the other m numbers. The name here, cell, the text also cell, and here for the x coordinate, maybe 420. Yeah. Of course, you can try out different numbers here for the coordinates, and you can play around and see how the panel looks on your screen. Okay, but let's go back to the candle pattern EA file or to our expert advisor file, compile, and let's take a look at the panel. So let's create a new chart here. Again, drop the EA on the chart. Yeah, and we can see the number, condition, buy and sell, a caption here on the panel. Okay, let's go back to meta editor. And the next thing I want to do is to destroy the panel in the on-init, so it does not always close the complete chart when we compile. So let's go to the on-init function here in the expert advisor file, and let's just write a comment here, destroy panel. And here we can just write panel.destroy, and we specify the reason like this. Okay, let's compile again. And I also want to handle the chart events now. So we can write the chart events function here after the onTick maybe. So we can just write void on chart event. And for the parameters, we can copy them here from the panel class. They are exactly the same. So I just copy them, paste them here. Of course, you need to add the bracket and open up the body like this. And here we now can call our panel chart event function, or we can also, maybe we can also just write panel.chart event, and we pass all the parameters here. So ID, lparam, dparam s param, So all the parameters here from the description of the method. And yeah, maybe we don't even need the panel chart event function. So if we just do it like this, compile, there should be no mistake. And let's also go to the panel file here, and we can maybe also delete this panel chart event function. We don't need this. So let's go back to the EA, compile again, and let's take a look in the MetaTrader. If we open up again a chart. So for now, always if we compile the EA, close the complete chart. So now we should be able to compile, and the panel should still be on the chart. So let's see if we go to Meta Editor, compile, back to MetaTrader, and yeah, the panel is still here now. And also we can move the panel around, and we can minimize the panel here, maximize it again, and we can also close the EA here with the click on this X. Okay, so this works fine. Now we can add more objects to the panel in the Meta Editor here in the create panel function. So for this next code section, I will just copy and paste the code from another EA, because I don't want to make this video too long and I want to get the panel done. And of course, we also want to do some testing in the end. So I will just paste the code now. This code here is after this cell label and before this run panel if statement. I will make sure it's on one side. Before you pause the video, I would advise you to create this for loop here. And then create the first label, compile, test in MetaTrader. Do the second label, compile, test in MetaTrader. And do the same for this buy check label here and the sell check label here. So you do this code in 4 steps and you make sure you have no mistake in between. Okay, yeah, we just loop here through the conditions and we create a condition number, condition text, buy check and sell check for each line from our label arrays. You can pause the video now and code this for your own EA. Okay, if you're done coding, go again back to the candle pattern EA, compile, and your panel should look something like this here. Of course, we have space now for another condition. You can just add another condition if you just increase this define statement here, number conditions to 3, for example, compile again. You should see another line here. But for this EA, of course, you have to add the inputs for this third condition. So I will just keep the conditions to 2, compile, and I will also decrease the panel size here a little bit. So I go to the create panel function here, and here I will change this 190 to 150. Compile again. Yeah, now we can see the panel is a little bit smaller, but it's enough for our 2 conditions. Okay, now the last step we need to do for this panel is to create a small update function. So with each new tick, these checks here are updated on the panel. So let's go to the candle pattern GUI file again. And after this create panel function, all the way down here, we create our update function. Okay, so let's write void, our class name, the graphical panel. Now our update function here. Here we just need to loop through the conditions and set the color of the checks, check buy and check sell labels accordingly. So we can just write a for loop here. Integer I set to 0. As long as this I is below our number conditions, we want to increase the index. And maybe I do this here. Okay, so here we can just set now the color of m_l buys. We need to specify the index and dot color. And here we want to set the color, of course, if the condition is true, to green, if the condition is false, to red, and if the condition is not active, to gray. So this is the first thing we can check here. If the condition is active, if that's the case, we check the condition. So we can use a check one condition function here. We enter true here for the first parameter, and we pass our I index here. And if this is true, we want to set the color to this green color and else to red, like this. And if the condition is not active, we want to set the color to a gray color maybe. Okay, now we can just copy and paste this for the sell condition. Like this, we change this to m_l sell color, check if it's active, the condition. And here we need to change this from true to false now, because we want to check for a sell position. All the colors are the same. And let's just clean this up a little bit. And that's basically it for this update function here. So now we can go to our EA file, compile. Okay, we have one mistake here. Let's see. Oh, okay, here, make sure you use the buys and the sells label, because this is our array and not cell. Okay, now we should be able to compile. Yeah, and now to call this update function here at every tick, we go to the onTick function here, and in the end, we can just write update panel and just write panel.update here. And this should update the panel with every tick. Okay, let's compile again. And let's switch to MetaTrader. And let's start a simple visual test here in the strategy tester to see, just with the default inputs, to see if this update function is working. And make sure to have this visual mode here selected. Okay, so let's check here this panel. We can see whenever we have the open of the previous bar is greater than the close of the previous bar. Yeah, we can see it's updating with every tick. So that's working fine. Okay, and one last thing here for the panel. After this run statement here in the create panel function, we want to redraw the chart. So just write a comment, maybe refresh chart. So here we can call the default, I think it's called chart redraw function here. So now we can go to the EA again, compile. Our panel is now finished. And now the only thing we need to do to have a better optimization basically is to add here this code in the check inputs function. We added a node here in one of the previous parts. And now here, this is the last step we need to do to check for the condition inputs. And here again, I will just paste the code so you can pause the video. So the code is here after this take profit statement, if statement. This is basically the whole for loop. And before we return true here in the end of the function. I will make sure it's all on one side. So we just loop here through the conditions and we check, for example, if the index is 0, then we only allow mode open and mode value. And here we check if we have one mode with open, high, low, close. We cannot compare this with range, body, ratio, or value because it doesn't make sense. Here we check if mode A and index A is the same as mode B and index B. And here we just check if two conditions are the same. So I will also get my face cam out of the way. So you can pause the video and code this for yourself. And after this, we can start testing in the strategy tester. Okay, so if you have coded this, compile one last time, and now we can switch. Yeah, make sure you have no mistake. We can switch to the strategy tester here, and we can do a few backtests. Okay, so I just want to show you one backtest here in British pound, Canadian dollar. So 1 hour time frame period is more than, it's like 15 years or so. Open price only mode. And for the inputs, you can pause the video if you're interested in the inputs. But very simple, 2 conditions. But I have to say the number of parameters for me, there are too much parameters. We have to test and optimize here for the strategy. So this is very likely to be a overfitted strategy. But let's take a look at the graph here. So you can see it looks very nice over the last 15 years, but I would say I would not trade the strategy on a live market. But the equity here looks very nice. Backtest statistics here. Yeah, I just want to show you another thing here I found very interesting. So this is on the symbol British pound Canadian dollar, and this is a custom symbol of mine. And I just want to show you, if I run the same strategy, you can see the equity again, and remember this equity, and we will run the same strategy with the same settings on the default broker symbol. So British pound Canadian dollar here, the default broker symbol. I'll just take a look at the equity graph here from my custom symbol, press start now, and let's take a look how this performs on the broker symbol. So you can see there's a completely different result here. And the reason is that the broker data is just messed up with a lot of errors. We can also take a look at the visual mode here, and I can show you what I mean. So but just let this run for a little bit. You can already see this bar, for example, the low of this bar is down here. And this, of course, will hit every stop loss and take profit of your strategy. Also here, the bar is way too big, basically. It's just, messed up data, and you get useless backtest results. So I say this quite often, but you have to check your data before you even start your first backtest. I have done a playlist on this topic, how you can get free data for your MetaTrader and to run good backtests that are just more reliable. I will link the playlist up here so you can go watch it. And I want to show you also another strategy, because this one here has a lot of inputs, right? And it's very likely to be over optimized because I like to reduce the number of inputs. So there's another strategy I want to show you, and this is in British pound US dollar. Okay, so I selected the British pound US dollar custom symbol. Again, 1 hour time frame, same time period, open price only mode. And for the inputs here, you can just pause the video if you're interested. But what I like about the strategy is that we have a stop loss and take profit. They are pretty close together. So I don't like to have a strategy with a stop loss, for example, of 10 points and a take profit of 500 points. Or also a take profit of 10 points and a stop loss of 500 points. Because then it's just very likely that you over optimize to a few trades. So if they are pretty close together or around the same size, stop loss, take profit, then this is a good sign for me. And also here, the conditions. What I like about the strategy is that we only have one condition. You can see the second condition here is set to false. So we only have this one condition here. And this is basically a gap up, gap down strategy. If you think about this, so high of bar number 3 has to be less than low of bar number 2 for the buy trade. And for the sell trade, exactly opposite. Okay, but let's run this test here over this period. And let's take a look at the results. So this is the equity graph. I'm pretty impressed with the result. We can also take a look at the backtest statistics here. And you can see a lot of trades here are on Monday. This just makes sense because the forex market is 24/5 basically. And you don't get a gap from Monday to Friday. But over the weekend, you can get a gap in the data. And this is where the strategy trades on Monday. Okay, so I think this result is very good, but what I also want to do is to test this again, same settings with the broker symbol, and let's see how this performs. If this is also very bad or not. Okay, it's also very good, and also the last year here, because I have to say my custom symbol data at the moment ends in June 2022. So basically this here, from here to the end is out of sample data, and it also looks very good. Okay, so I'm pretty impressed with the result here of the strategy of this EA. Of course, now it's up to you to test different time frames, different symbols, because I'm pretty sure there are more great strategies out there you can trade with this EA. You can also modify this EA, but I would always save it with a new name if I do this. So version 2, for example. So you always have the base code available. Because I don't know if I will do a video in the future. I'm using this EA to add an additional component. And also, if this video was helpful for you, would be really nice if you just leave a like. This really helps the channel. I put a lot of work in these videos, and this just helps to spread the content to more people. Also, I want to show you what I will teach you in one of the next videos. So I will show you how to use Visual Studio Code for your mql5 programs. So yeah, this editor just has a lot of advantages over the default meta editor. You have different color themes and a minimap and a lot of more cool stuff here. So I will show you this in one of the next videos. If you don't want to miss that, subscribe to the channel. I will also show you in one of the next videos how to get a virtual private server so you can let your strategies run 24/7. Okay, and also let me know in the comments what you want to see next. If you have a specific idea, for example, or a specific EA I should code and test, let me know in the comments. Okay, so I will see you in one of the next videos. Bye bye.